So maybe if we start off by if you give us a quick introduction of your name and your role within Radar Payments.
Sure. Hi. So my name is Evgenia Loginova. I'm a CEO at Radar Payments. Radar Payments is a SaaS company. We provide rails for any company that has a payments business for them to run their payments business. So be it banks, processors, acquirers, new economy players, payments really touch every business that's in our reality. So our mission is to stay under the radar of our customers. So we provide them all of the technology, SaaS enabled, so that they can service and deliver the most innovative, proven, secure, scalable methods of payment to their end consumers.
Excellent. Okay, so
we're tech behind the tech. I would say of some of the of most of the companies these days.
Okay, so obviously we can't not have an interview and not talk about the pandemic that we've all been in for the last couple of years. How has that sort of affected or influenced your business over the last sort of 12 to 18 months?
Look, I would say just probably not to be boring or repetitive of everyone else. I would say that we have been affected the same way as your business and every other business. So we had to learn how to work in a kind of remote environment. But I would say the adaptation took a very short amount of time. And in fact, I would say it's kind of helped me to really, reassured me that working from home can still be as effective as being in the kind of large space altogether. And on the other hand, in terms of the actual business, it has really also accelerated the pace at which we are at which we're thinking of coming to market, because Radar Payments is still quite new, although we're part of the bigger group, but the proposition is fairly new. And I think where we stand versus competition is that our tech stack is really proven to scale. So for instance, we can onboard a startup, but we can see them all the way through until they become a multi-million in terms of volume customer. So we were very sure in our proposition, but we just needed to, in a way, accelerate our time to market. So sort of it's the marketing, the proposition, the positioning, to tell the story of ourselves, I would say, a little quicker, because sort of you probably know it also better than I am. The competitive space is pretty crowded. I think there is a space for everyone, but there is a certain, I would say, urgency in the industry for the fight for the consumer, and also because payments industry is not as consolidated as some other parts of, say, Fintech. There are still, especially I think in Europe, in Asia, in EM, there's no one kind of payments champion, and I don't necessarily think there should be one, but there is certain kind of strive and drive for market share right now. So again, like from the business perspective, we have just been driven by the sense of urgency of really kind of getting our scalability and getting to market faster, especially considering the new norms that we kind of operate on. So it's not like you go and see a customer, you need to kind of make sure that your proposition now travels virtually.
And I can imagine with the sort of, there's been a lot of explosion of new fintechs that have come on board to sort of, I wouldn't say capitalize on the sort of thing, but the digital adoption has become much wider and much greater. And as you alluded to, the sort of the onboarding of clients has been a key thing for you.
Yes.
So have you changed the business in any way to enable that onboarding process to be much quicker and more efficient?
Yeah, look, again, Radar's whole proposition is to deliver, I would say the best-in-class technology, but easier. So through APIs and guaranteed time span, that, of course, larger customers which we have, like banks or bigger digital banks, they will always have, customization, some unique features that you cannot service by an out-of-the-box proposition. But still, if it's like a Sequoia-funded project, the guys, they are, on the line to deliver their, say, digital bank on time. So we need to be sure that we can do it quick. There's the overall, in the new economy, there is very little patience to lengthy contract negotiations, to lengthy deliveries. So everything needs to be kind of done quicker, but at the same time, it has to be done fail-proof. So from our perspective, because still we're in a B2B business, not in a B2C, so we haven't seen this mass increase in customer base that have adopted digital channels, like some other B2C or customer-facing companies. But we have, as a kind of tech enabler, we just definitely see more emphasis on speed, on the kind of quality, and that it has to be delivered, within the kind of guaranteed time span. And again, in terms of, innovation, there is definitely much more demand for it and more of an acceptance. And because we kind of service the new economy as well as the traditional guys, it's also interesting to see that, traditional banks who have, of course, been talking about becoming more innovative for a long time, because ultimately, the user experience journey, they have been losing out to the digital banks and the fintechs, but they have also become much more aggressive in a good way in the pursuit of new, in the pursuit and the adoption of new methods of payment and more of a fintech approach, which again, from our perspective, generates more demand.
It's interesting. So obviously we're here at Money 2020. You have a lovely booth outside on the shop floor. What are you looking to achieve while you're here?
Firstly, information, and I think as we were talking just before the interview had started, I think the kind of playing field and the attendance has sort of shifted this year versus the previous years. You see less banks present, you see less of a kind of traditional payment providers pressing. I don't see huge, maybe I haven't yet been around, but I haven't seen huge booths of the schemes. But there are way more of the companies like us, or more mature fintechs, more mature, well-funded fintechs, and the agenda as well. It has sort of, the glimpses that I've seen, it has finally moved away from this kind of banking versus fintechs story, which I thought kind of grew all the way before it finally kind of evaporated. But there's much more emphasis on a payment providers now. So for instance, there's a session which I'm quite keen to hear with Stripe on sort of what is the next payment enablers proposition should be, right? In the business where we are, we're processing as a commodity and the margins are zero, you cannot really go and do a pitch like, we will enable your payment processing, because everybody does that, especially as we talk about embedded finance. So, so I would say here, looking to achieve, looking to get more information in terms of how the competitors are also thinking in that highly commoditized space, but where there is a drive to deliver end-to-end proposition, which is what we do. Also, of course, getting to know new people, new customers, and it's just good to see and some people that you haven't seen for a long time, and again, be competition, partnership, or the clients, but just exchange information, really understand where the market is, because whatever you read, you still need to feel it, and you really get it from the in-person communication.
Yeah, it's a lot better, isn't it? We've been waiting a long time to be back physically in real life, and it's wonderful to see.